Hey gang! Using the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, will get you 10% off any order over $10 at Flipside Gaming. It'll also get you 10% off any orders of singles at Multizone. And it'll get you 10% off most products at Original Magic Art, with the exceptions of some paintings. If these fine sites don't have what you're looking for, you can also consider using my affiliate link when ordering from TCG Player. And if you'd like to join the Generic Goblin Gang to support this channel, there's a link to my Patreon in the description below. Hey gang, and welcome back to another Gamebreakers gang gameplay. In today's game, Martin is playing his Kentaro deck, keeping in Mistfilled Plains, Myriad Landscape, Snow-Covered Plains, Vanquisher's Banner, the Immortal Sun, and Changeling Sentinel. Nick is playing his Nicol Bolas deck, keeping Kess, Mnemonic Wall, Temple of Deceit, Temple of Epiphany, Deliver Unto Evil, Split Decision, and Epiphany at the Drownyard. Max is playing his Taigam deck, keeping a Mystifying Maze, an Irrigated Farmland, an Opal Palace, Precognitive Perception, Rhystic Study, Return to Dust, and Treasure Cruise. Last but not least, Tarek is playing Yuriko, keeping 2 islands, Slitherblade, Sky Theater Strix, Death Cult Rogue, Walker of the Secret Ways, and Ninja of the Deep Hours. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. Max plays an Opal Palace and casts Wayfarer's Bauble. Tarek plays an island and casts his Slitherblade. Nick plays a tapped Temple of Epiphany and scries 1. Martin plays a tapped Myriad Landscape. Max plays a Mystifying Maze and passes, sacrificing his Bauble to go and find a basic. Tarek plays another island and reignites the immortal battle between samurai and ninjas by swinging at Martin. Before damage is dealt, he uses ninjutsu to bring in the Ninja of Deep Hours, dealing 2 and drawing a card as it connects. Nick plays a Temple of Deceit, scrying again, and passing. Martin plays a tapped Mistfilled Plains. Max draws and plays Rhystic Study. He then plays a tapped Irrigated Farmlands and passes. Tarek draws and goes at Max with a Ninja. It connects and draws Tarek a card. In his post-combat main phase, he plays out the Sky Theater Strix from his hand, with Max drawing from the study. And Tarek then plays a tapped Mortuary Mire. Nick plays a tapped Swiftwater Cliffs, gaining 1 life as it enters, and passes. Martin plays a Snow-Covered Plains, passing. Max untaps and draws, with Martin activating the landscape to go and find 2 Snow-Covered Plains. Max then plays a Windbrisk Heights and hides away a card. He then plays out his commander, Taigam, before passing. Tarek plays a tapped Halimar Depths, rearranging his top 3. He goes to combat, swinging both of his creatures at Nick this time, and before damage is dealt, he uses Commander Ninjutsu to bring in Yuriko, returning the Strix to hand. This has Nick taking 3, one of which is commander damage, and Tarek has some triggers. He layers it to resolve the Ninja of Deep Hours draw first, and then reveals his top 2 cards to Yuriko's triggers. He reveals a land and Force of Negation, dealing 3 to all of his opponents. In his second main phase, he plays out a Slitherblade, which lets Max draw a card from the study, and passes. Nick plays a Swamp and casts a Callous Oppressor, paying the 1 for the study, and denies Max the card draw. As it enters, he picks Martin as the opponent, and has him pick a creature type. Martin names ninjas, and Nick then passes. Martin plays another Snow-Covered Plains and casts Helm of Awakening, paying the 1 extra. He then casts Kentaro, paying the 1 extra as well before passing. Max draws and plays a Plains. He goes to combat, hitting Nick for 3 with Taigam. He then plays out a Caged Sun in his second main phase, naming white thanks to the universal reduction from the Helm of Awakening. Tarek untaps and draws. He plays a Swamp and goes to combat, swinging the Blade at Martin, the Ninja of Deep Hours at Nick, and Yuriko at Max. They each declare no blocks, and before moving to damage, Tarek casts Mystical Tutor. He goes into his library, revealing a copy of Temporal Trespass, and puts it on top. Max reminds him about the study trigger, and Tarek pays the 1. Tarek then also uses this as a chance to ninjutsu in Walker of Secret Ways, returning his Slitherblade to his hand. Everyone then takes the hits, with Martin and Max losing 1, while Nick takes 2. Tarek then layers his triggers to resolve the Yuriko triggers first, and he reveals the Trespass, Skull Snatcher, and an island, doing 13 damage to his opponents. He then looks at Martin's hand with the Walker's trigger, and finally draws with the Ninja of Deep Hours. Tarek then recasts a Slither Blade, letting Max draw a card. He then discards down to 7 before passing to Nick. Nick casts a main phase Epiphany at the Drown Yard where X is 4. He makes 2 piles, and Martin gives him the pile with the land. Nick then plays a Swamp and passes turn. Martin draws and casts Thalia's Lancers in his main phase, paying the study trigger because of the Helm reduction. He goes to find a legendary, putting to hand a Ganjo Castle, which he plays for turn. He then passes, with Max cycling Ash Barrens at the end of turn to find a basic island for hand. Max draws and pays for an Endless Horizon, which resolves, and as it enters, he delays to go find the Plains card as he plays an island for turn and then heads to combat, hitting Tarek for 4 with Taigam. He then resolves the Horizons trigger, grabbing 9 lands with Plains as their type. As he's in his post-combat main phase, Max then casts Precognitive Perception, which triggers with Addendum. He scries 3, bottoms all 3 of them, and then draws 3 before exiling the spell because of Taigam giving it Rebound. He then has to discard down to 7, and Martin uses this time to cast an Enlightened Tutor. He can't pay the 1, and Max draws from the study. Tarek plays an island and goes to combat, swinging the team at Max. Before moving to blocks, Nick activates the Cal's Oppressor, who because it has Ninja named, is able to attempt to steal Yuriko from Tarek. With the ability on the stack, Tarek has the Walker return Yuriko to his hand, and then uses Commander Ninjutsu to swap Yuriko for the Slither Blade. Max then attempts to use a Path to Exile on Yuriko, but Tarek uses a counterspell to stop it. Tarek can't pay the 1, so Max gets to draw a card. The ninjas then connect, with Max taking 4, and Tarek gains some triggers. Once more, he resolves the Yuriko triggers first, revealing a land, Moth Dust Changeling, and Cloudfin Raptor. This has his opponents losing 2 life. He then draws from the Ninja of Deep Hours, and Tarek then moves to discard down to 7 before passing. Nick draws, and is just so land-starved this game. He pays 5, letting Max draw despite having the mana to deny it, for an Archfiend of Depravity, and passes to Martin. Martin plays his Caged Sun that he found, and as it comes in names white, paying the study cost before passing. Max rebounds his Precognitive Perception, drawing 3 on his upkeep. He remembers the Endless Horizon trigger and puts the Prairie Stream to hand before playing it. Moving to combat, Taigam once more goes at Tarek. Tarek takes the 4, and Max then casts the Mirari Conjecture in his second main phase. This lets Max return the Path to Exile to his hand, and he then plays Mother of Ruins, and then casts Thirst for Knowledge. He draws 3, discarding a Flooded Strand and Preordain, and exiles the Thirst for the Rebound trigger on his next turn. He once more tries to use Path to Exile on Yuriko, but Tarek casts a Force of Negation, exiling a card to pay for the spell, and counters it. Max then moves to his discard step, while Nick taps the Oppressor and is finally able to steal Yuriko from Tarek. Tarek draws and plays a Command Tower. He goes to combat, swinging both of his ninjas at Nick, and Nick blocks the Ninja of Deep Hours with his Archfiend. Before moving to damage, Tarek returns the ninja to hand with the Walker, and then uses Ninjutsu to swap the Walker with a Fallen Shinobi. It connects for 5 with Nick, and Tarek exiles the top 2 cards of Nick's library. He exiles a land and Manifold Insights, and Tarek is able to cast the Insights for free. He reveals his top 10 cards, and his opponents then each have to give him a different, non-land card. Nick gives him a Fairy Seer, Martin gives him the Birthing Boughs, and Max gives him something I don't recognize. He then also pays the 1 for the study trigger as he puts the cards to hand, and Tarek passes. Nick draws and goes to combat, swinging Yuriko at Tarek. Tarek takes the 1 from his commander, and Nick reveals a land, putting it to hand. He then plays out Kess in his post-combat main phase, paying the 1 extra for the study trigger, and passes. Martin draws and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He casts the Immortal Sun, which Max attempts to steal with the Desertion. Responding to the counter, Nick casts Split Decision, and the table votes. Nick picks Duplication, and then Martin picks it as well, which makes the rest of the votes pretty much moot, and Nick then gets to steal the artifact. Martin then plays out a Vanquisher's Banner, naming Samurai as it enters. Martin then casts Mirror Entity, drawing as it enters from the banner. Max resolves his Endless Horizons trigger first, putting up planes to hand, and then resolves his Rebound Thirst for Knowledge, drawing 3. He discards a Plains and a Windfall to it. Max then goes to combat, swinging Taigam again at Tarek for 4. It's at this point that Martin realizes he should only have 2 creatures because of the Archfiend, and he puts Kentaro to his command zone. Max then moves to a second main phase, casting a Dubscape, and also remembers to uptick the Saga to the appropriate amount of lore counters, and he then passes, discarding Preordain. Tarek draws, and plays a Rogue's Passage. He activates it and gives the Fallen Shinobi unblockable, and Nick makes a deal with Tarek that if he goes at Max, he'll give back Yuriko when he untaps on turn. Tarek agrees, swinging at Max. Max responds once he gains priority, casting a Cyclonic Rift, which works really well with Dubscape since it can't be countered thanks to Taigam. This has him bouncing all of his opponent's permanents, and he also gains 2 bird tokens. Tarek then moves to a second main phase, playing out a Fairy Seer, and paying the 1 for the study, and passes. Nick untaps, and draws. He plays a Mountain for turn, and recasts the Oppressor, and has Martin pick the creature type again. This time Martin picks humans, and Nick then plays out Kess. Martin draws, and plays a Snow-Covered Plains. He recasts Thalia's Lancers, and goes to his library. He reveals and puts to hand God Eternal Oketra, and Martin then plays out Opaleye, Konda's Yojimbo before passing. Max untaps, and grabs a plane on his upkeep to the Endless Horizons. He draws, and puts the final lore counter on his Mirari's Conjecture. This will have all of his spells get an extra copy when he casts them, and he then plays a Plains, and goes to combat. He swings the birds, who are also pumped by the Caged Sun, and Taigam at Tarek. Before moving to blocks, Max activates the Windburst Kites, and casts Saheeli's Artistry, and gets a second copy of it because of the Conjecture trigger. He makes 2 more Caged Suns, and 1 Kess, and 1 Thalia's Lancers. The Caged Suns then enter, with one naming blue, and the other naming white again. He also technically casts one of them, which can't be countered because of Taigam, but he still gets the 6 bird tokens from the Dovescape. He grabs an Umezawa's Jitte with the Lancers trigger, and Tarek can finally block. He decides not to, taking the 14, 6 of which is Commander. Max then casts a Treasure Cruise, delving away most of his graveyard, and gains 8 bird tokens and a copy of Treasure Cruise from the Conjecture. This has Max drawing 6 cards, and he also gets to exile the Cruise for Rebound. Max then resolves Mnemonic Wall, who enters and returns the Cyclonic Rift to his hand. With enough open mana, it's more than enough for his opponents to say good game and scoop it up to Max. Game review time. So I think Tarek was definitely a threat early on, and the table did a good job of dealing with him. Unfortunately, what that meant though, was that by the time he was dealt with, Max was able to sneak into head. I love the interaction of Dovescape and Taigam, and I'm hoping to use it in the future. We still have not seen Martin's mysterious way of how he wins with Kentaro, so hopefully we'll see it in the future. Nick got off to a really rocky start, and by the time that he was hitting his land drops, he just really was too far behind to get in this game. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/MTGMudsta. And lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/MTGMudsta. This video is brought to you in support by my patrons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit the link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.